Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight, the influence for the story that I'm going to present today is something that I saw maybe about a week or so ago. Not really even sure. It might have been 2 weeks ago. But sometimes we're so bombarded with material every day. You have to pick and choose. What are you going to check out? What are you going to comment on? What is something that's newsworthy? What's something that's worth talking about in a video? So, as what often happens when I come across so much material, I'll look at the headline real quick. And sometimes I don't have a chance to really, check out the article at the time. So I'll put it on the back burner. So, I'll come back and read this article later. Or I'll just catch the headline. Maybe it didn't catch my attention. And I don't really react to it. But then what happens is that you find that this is a topic that a lot of people are talking about. So then what's happened a lot of times, stories that may not have caught my attention the first time, after people start talking about it, then I have to revisit it. I'm like, okay, what is it going on with this story that might be interesting, might be something that I want to share on the blog or on the YouTube channel. And this is exactly how this story today came about. Because like I said, I came across it a couple of weeks ago, maybe, I don't know, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. That's that's just proof that I didn't really pay much attention to it. But oftentimes this is what happens when I post something on the blog or on the YouTube channel. So this is something that I wanted to talk about tonight because it kind of it brings to the fore a topic that I often talk about. I know some people might get tired of talking about it, but hey, I like talking about this because I've said this so many times. In order to really understand the race situation in Brazil, there's a number of topics that you really have to take a look at, because let us understand that Brazil for decades has just denied that there's any type of racial problem. And as I said, if you're looking at Brazil from an American perspective, you might be fooled by what you see until you dig a little bit deeper, you pull the curtain back, and you really start to analyze what you're seeing, right? Whereas Brazilians look at the United States and say, well, you guys don't have interracial marriage. You don't have interracial unions. We've been mixing for centuries here. So that makes you racist, and it makes us not racist. And, for many years, Brazilians themselves actually believed that until other people started really analyzing this argument. Now, if you look at Brazil from the American perspective and you look at, all of these unions across racial lines, and you see this huge mixed race population where there's a lot of people where you can't just definitively define them as Black or white or Native American or whatever it might be, because people have mixed for this long. But then you have people who look, for all intents and purposes, they look white, but like they look slightly mixed. Or you see people, for all intents and purposes, they look Black, but you can also tell that they're mixed. So when you discover that Brazil instituted the idea of interracial unions in order to push to the fore, planning for the future demise of the Black population through mixture. So then if you look at it from that perspective, like, okay, well, y'all have a different form of racism, but it's in essence, both sides are very much anti-Black in how they deal with the Black population, So this story I came across again, a couple of weeks back. And I was like, okay, I really just got into the story a couple of days ago. I says, okay, this is definitely something I want to talk about. So this story is called White Savior Complex. Did the husband of a Black reality show participant present himself as superior to her with his comments? So as it went down, it's an interracial couple featuring a popular Black woman with her white husband. So the person I'm talking about today, her name is Alini Weirley, and Alini was I guess she came to fame like in the early part of the 2000s when she was part of this Brazilian pop dance group called Rouge, right? Rouge. They were featured on this reality, like like one of those singing reality shows. And so that was her claim to fame. She's another person I would say is like a B-list celebrity. She's not one of the top people, but people are very much familiar with her. I haven't talked a lot about her. I think her name might have popped up on the blog occasionally when I was talking about just like interracial unions. Let me see if I can find where this article is where I just briefly talked about her because let me see. Okay, right here. So this is a story from, what year is this? This is from 2020, and it's called Palmitage: The Discomfort in Thinking About Race and Race Relations, or Race and Relationships. Now, what's funny about the term palmitage, and I constantly have to remind, viewers to know what this term means. It is a term that I would credit Afro-Brazilian feminists who came with the term palmitagem. Palmito is where the term comes from. Palmito meaning hearts of palm, the crunchy white vegetable that comes in a jar or a can. So that's palmito. So it's white. It's something that's white. And they come up with the term palm in Portuguese. It's when you say palmitagem, it's based on the word palmito, which again means hearts of palm. So they label specifically at that time Black men who had this seem of obsession, this preference for white women when they're going to have long-term relationships. They'll have casual relationships with Black women, but when it's time to put the ring on the finger or have children in a family, then they're gonna go after the white woman. So they call this phenomenon palmitagem, and they refer to people who participate in this as palmiteiros. I thought it was intriguing because yesterday I discovered that the term palmiteiro actually made it onto the Urban Dictionary site. Don't know if any of you are familiar with that. But my thing was, I think they defined the palmiteiro. I think it was wrong how they defined it. They defined it as a Black guy, but in Brazil it defines a Black guy who likes having sexual relations with white women. And I'm like, that's not what it is, because the palmiteiro will have sexual relations with both sides. It's just that when they decide to settle down and have a relationship, they prefer to have a white woman. That's what a palmiteiro is, right? So anyway, this article from 2020, I talked about this topic again, and one of the couples that was featured in this article featured this girl, Aline Weirley. And she said, she ended up marrying a white guy. And what did she say? She says, my whole family's base is female, and I have 3 aunts who didn't get married. And so she's an actress and a singer. So this was her memory. And she was like, looking at the pattern that goes on with Black women in the family, she didn't want to end up not being married, being 60, 70 years old and spending her later years alone. So she ended up marrying this guy, Igor Hikili, I guess they pronounce it in Brazil. Let me see. What did she say? 3 aunts who didn't marry. Today, she is married to actor Igor Hikili, with whom she has a son, Antonio. As a Black woman, I know how difficult it is in this case to be the base of the pyramid and have the one at her side. I think I translated that one wrong, but what is she saying? She's stressing the importance of the relationship in her life. I have learned that I can be loved. And this is something that a lot of Black women have talked about, how being constantly passed over by both Black and white men, it makes them feel as if they don't deserve to have, romantic love or just have a long-term partner in their lives, right? So basically she's saying she didn't say per se that she opened up her options, but if you read between the lines, she's just like, and you get a lot of Black Brazilian women who say this: if I want to get married, I have to, connect with the person who's giving me attention. In her case, in a lot of cases with Black Brazilian women, this turns out to be the case. Either they don't get married at all, or, maybe it's a white man who comes along that's willing, who wants to put the ring on their finger, right? So this is Aline Weirley. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about her relationship, not necessarily her relationship, but just something that her husband recently said. Now, Alini Weirdly was a participant in this. Was it this edition? The previous edition of the ever popular, no, this edition, I think, Big Brother Brazil 23, the long running, very popular reality show. And she was one of the participants. It was said in this year's edition of the 23rd edition of Big Brother Brazil, this particular edition had the most Black Brazilian participants of all 23 seasons. Every year it goes up a little bit more. And I guess this year they broke the record. It was like either half or slightly more than half of all the participants on this edition of Big Brother Brazil were Black, right? So this is what came up recently. Her husband went to he posted something in his Instagram. And on the surface, it looks like a compliment to his wife to say, look what we've endured and what we've been able to, to get through to maintain our relationship. But when you really look at what he was saying, it was almost like a kind of a sly diss in a way. And, people can look at what he said and be like, well, you're making too much of this. But this is why I wanted to feature the article and read some of the things that he said and let you all come to your own conclusion about what you think he said. Because I can kind of see where this was going. After I read the whole comment, I'm like, did he know that he said what he said? Did he mean it the way that he meant it? Let's just get into it because I thought it was intriguing what he said. And it speaks to this idea of, okay, white and Black are married. That must mean that both partners, there is no type of racist sentiment in how they think about their partner, nothing like that. And I've said time and time again, a lot of people they've said, look, just because a person is willing to lay with you, even have a relationship and children with you, does not necessarily mean they see you as being equal to them, right? But let's get into this piece and you come to your conclusion. Tell me what you think about this. So Alini Weirdly's husband criticized her declaration to wife on social network. In the comments, some followers disapproved of Igor Hikili for citing offensive statements against the Big Brother Brazil participant, his wife. So this is a piece from Folha PE, written by Juliana Gomez. So this is my reaction here. So I always start off my videos with the translated piece, and then I'm going to get into what I think about the particular article. So Igor Hikili became the target of criticism after making a social media post dedicated to his wife, Alini Weirdly, and one of the participants of Big Brother Brazil 23. Igor cited the strength of the couple's love and highlighted the offenses that were directed towards his wife. Okay. So this is a picture of the couple, and this is the text that he created for his post on Instagram, right? So in an Instagram post, he said, ever since we met and chose to be together, we've had to deal with a lot of criticism. I have heard from people, some even from our own circle, that we have a facade relationship, that Igor, could have chosen a better one. Like people are saying you could have done better than that. That you were too ugly for me, that when she shaved her hair, she made a pact to hold on to her husband, that we were a fake. They have offended us greatly, my love. And to this day, they offend us a lot. And I doubt that this will pass, that this pain will pass, but I know who you are, and only you know who I am and what unites us. And it's so much bigger than any outpouring of hate they can send us. Our covenant is in love. That is our cause. Now, what did you get from that statement? Does it just sound like a guy he's declaring his support and his love for his wife, or is there something else going on there? Okay, let's keep it going. In the comments, some followers disapproved of Igor for quoting offensive lines against his wife. I love you, Alini, but seriously, did you repeat these phrases? Someone asked, somebody who read, his post. And the person who wrote this comment says, guys, people, this is unnecessary. Exposure, creed. Is praising yourself a declaration? You're wanting her spotlight, that's for sure. Me, eh? Was I the only one to be bothered by this typical text of a toxic declaration of love, exalting how he is the shiznit, and ignoring all criticism, making a point of reproducing all of it, not thinking that making her relive it could actually hurt her. This is someone else's comment. And the absence after those heavy citations of extolling the beautiful and wonderful woman she is, instead of focusing on his support and love for her. That's crazy, said another person. So what they're saying here is, you didn't have to go through saying all of the things that people who have criticized your marriage has said about your wife. It's almost like you're saying, like, look at me, regardless of what all of those people said about you being ugly and, I could have done better than you. I stuck with you. It's almost like he's exalting himself rather than praising his wife. It's like, you didn't have to go to the point of repeating the unnecessary comments, the negative comments that people were saying, because in you producing those comments or repeating them, it almost seems like you're giving yourself a slap on the back. Like, see, I saved you, regardless of what people say, I still love you, right? One follower quipped, they've offended us a lot, but all of the comments were directed at her alone. And by the way, quite unnecessary in a supportive post. Some analyzed that Igor may have had a racist attitude with the statement. I see in this text only the white savior syndrome. He aimed at locking down the reproduction of racism, lamented another. So this is what people are saying. People are looking at this like, on the surface, it sounds like he's complimenting his wife and he's complimenting their endurance against all of the haterade that people were sending their way. But in the end, it almost sounds like he's putting himself above her, as if, like, look, me, I'm the great white savior and I came along and I love you regardless of what people are saying. Because the point is, regardless of how many interracial relationships you see in Brazil, there is still this thought pattern that says, well, anybody Black would prefer to marry somebody white, because it's like, that's the best you can do. To get with somebody Black, that doesn't prove anything. And so then when you see so many Black Brazilian soccer players, and like all of the top players are all married, most of them, like 95% of them literally are married to white women. And it just kind of reproduces this idea of white superiority, both in the minds of Black Brazilians, and even though a lot of people wouldn't admit it, but in the minds of white Brazilians. There's been how many books have written about this, the things that people say. It's like, it's kind of clear that in the minds of the typical Brazilian or the average Brazilian, this hierarchy of race still posits the white population on the top of that pyramid. And so this is what people are pointing to here. By him making such comments and reproducing what people were saying, is actually putting himself on a pedestal in some ways over his wife. I don't know. What do you think about that? So then here was the comments of a guy on Instagram named, I guess he calls himself Achilles Marshall. He says the offensive compliment of Alidi Wernie's husband and interracial relationships. So this is his text. When you talk about love, you just need to say the simple, true things that come to your heart. Talking about love is not an exercise in ego. On the contrary, where there is too much ego, love does not prosper. When a Black woman is involved, it is even more imperative than when talking about affection to emphasize what she is, what she can be, without, quote unquote, but, without conditions, without stories of the little lady. When Alini Weirley's husband, Igor Hikili, makes a declaration and feels compelled to expose what supposedly other people thought of the union, it sounds more like a massage for himself and a reminder to his partner of how she was rewarded for hooking up with a white man with light-colored eyes. So this is the couple with their son, Antonio, right? The actor wrote a few days ago on his Instagram in a somewhat awkward show of affection, I've heard from people that I, Igor, could have chosen a better one, that you were too ugly for me, that when you shaved your hair, you made a pact to hold on to your husband. They have offended us greatly, my love. So, Alini shaved her head. She popped up at the popular Sao Paulo Fashion Week, and, she has shaved her head, right? So this is what they're saying. It's funny because when I looked at these pictures, maybe you don't see it, but I look at this picture and she shaved her hair. She looks like a well-known African-American actress. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not going to say, who do you see? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you don't see anybody, but she reminds me. Now that I'm looking at her, I see actually one or two different people that she kind of reminds me of with her hair cut that way, right? What do you think? Just curious. Continuing. Now, what is the purpose of exposing the judgments of others within a relationship in which you are supposed to be sure that the person beside you is the most special person in the world? Will Alini feel more beautiful and safe? And when he says that they offended us a lot, no, they offended her, the Black woman who is not up to the task of standing beside such a colossal and perfect being. So basically what he's saying is that, no, they didn't offend you. They didn't offend you as a couple. They offended your wife. Because, in some ways, people still look at an interracial couple and see the white partner as the superior in that interracial relationship. Again, whether, I'm exposing the way that I think about this or how society sees it, we've seen plenty of this. Just when you consider some of the comments that, Brazilians have made over the years, it's quite obvious that people see who is the superior partner in our interracial relationship. This video that I did some time back where this guy was saying, like, look, all of these interracial relationships in Brazil actually prove more of our racism rather than, denying it, rather than, debunking this. Because it was like when you have an interracial couple in Brazil, 5 out of 6 times, something like that, the Black person in the relationship is going to have this, the higher social status, right? It's always being said that the trade-off with the stigma of being Black, so the Black partner goes and get a white partner of a lower social class, whereas their skin color, the skin color of the white partner is supposed to like make up for the color of the Black partner, right? So, okay, this is Alini Weirley, very pretty woman, as you can see. Again, got her start as a singer. She's also an actress, and she was featured on this 23rd edition of Big Brother Brazil. Now, the text goes on. I am not doubting that there is love, that there is affection, but this type of praise in which some offenses are put in the mouth of others to supposedly strengthen the position of those who are enduring criticism is very problematic. And I imagine how many Black people, when having a relationship with white people, this is not a criticism, have in mind the idea that they have won the lottery and that it is synonymous with what they have been. It's synonymous with that they have been accepted in society and that the other is doing him or her a favor. We're beautiful people. We don't need to be placed in a degree of comparison with anyone. We are beautiful by ourselves. This is a comment that, I posted also in my previous video. A lot of people are saying this, like, why do we have this need to hook up with white partners if in order to like give ourselves more value? We have to start recognizing ourselves as having value without having to look, feeling that value only if you're accepted by the white community or just, an individual white person. And this, this is something that a lot of Black Brazilians have come to acknowledge. If you're happy with someone, just say so. Don't try to remind us that somewhere being Black is ugly to people. Maybe it's one of the side effects of interracial relationships. There is no full understanding of what affects us. I like what he said here. Maybe it's one of the side effects of interracial relationships. So, what does that mean? Is the Black person willing to give up the dignity of being Black as long as they have that white person at their side? Another previous video that I did, a clinical psychologist was talking about how it seems that Black couples in Brazil, at the first hint of a problem in a relationship, they're ready to throw in a towel if the partner is Black and it's 2 Black people there, but they're willing to endure a whole lot more problematic relationships if the partner is white, like have to hold on to that piece of whiteness. So, again, this is not to say it's a criticism of interracial relationships, not at all. But people, you have to be willing to look a little bit deeper than what things appear on the surface. So some of the, I want to actually go into some of the things that play out in this this article that I just talked about. This whole thing of the white savior complex, right? This is something that, happens in Brazil also. Race and representation, the great white savior complex continues in a popular global TV novella. White people, the normative social standard. There's quite a bit of articles on here about this. This was an article where a popular white woman, social media influencer, she hid her boyfriend for some time, and then when people saw that he was black, they were just kind of taken aback, like, "Oh my God, how could such a successful pretty white girl could be with this black guy?" That was kind of the reaction. What else do we have here? White people, the normative social standard. So this is something that, when people have started years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you wouldn't have had this conversation in Brazil because people just kind of accepted whiteness as the standard in the country. But people analyzing the scenario more and, coming to attain education and being able to analyze these things a little bit more, than the surface level. And they come to conclude like, wow, white people have been chosen for the standard of everything in Brazil. And this is what this article is talking about here. I got another piece that's coming up that goes a little bit more into this right here. This idea of if it's all white people, it's cool, that represents society. But if you have all black people represent something, then that's somehow reverse racism. All right. What else we have here? Race and representation. This is a novella where it appears as one of the characters appears as the great white savior. All right. Have to go into, you can learn a lot from looking at Brazilian novellas, even though I don't really care for them that much. This is another one where this is a popular social media personality. What is her name? Rafa Kalimann, and she was in Africa. Rafaela Freitas Ferreira de Castro Mataus. She's a popular social media influencer, actress. She's a host, a model, businesswoman, and a Brazilian missionary. So people, they made a big issue out of this when she, did this volunteer work in Africa, because, it's like, and this is something that I see, this is another host of a global TV news network. Here he is over in Africa surrounded by black kids. Same thing this girl does, oh, let me take a picture with the poor Negroes, right? And I'm not saying for sure that that's what she had in mind, but I take issue when people do things that's supposed to be from the heart, and then they feel like they have to post these things all over social media. It's just like, okay, I like it when, it just speaks to people wanting to do things without necessarily wanting that recognition. When you do things behind the scenes and just make things happen, and you don't even want your name involved in it. Like, yeah, I'm doing this because I want to do it, not because I want some type of publicity. So this is something that, people, she was very, very much criticized when she took all of these pictures and posted them on her social media account, right? Because people just get tired of that. Like, you just want to be good. You want to be a good Samaritan, or you want to be the great white savior, right? Okay. The goddess Iemanjá, the goddess of the sea, in the Yoruba mythology, part of which you can find in the Candomblé, Afro-Brazilian religion in Brazil. And so Iemanjá is a very, popular goddess that is celebrated in Brazil. But she's known to be a black goddess. But this is what I'm saying about how black people elevate this image of white people. So this woman she's supposed to represent Iemanjá, but like, okay, Iemanjá is a Nigerian mythology. So why are these black men carrying this image of a white Iemanjá? All right. What else do we have here? So again, this is another, these are some of the other articles that I have just talking about how interracial relationships are being critiqued these days. Yes, interracial love does exist, but some black people also use white people as a social passport to feel more accepted. This is according to a social influencer. Just a whole bunch of stuff that I have here. Like I said, I've been covering this for a number of years, which is the reason why I felt like I wanted to cover this story today. But it's problematic. Here you have an article called Racism in Interracial Relationships, because Black Brazilians are taught to overvalue whiteness. Racism within Brazil's LGBT community, right? Stereotyping of Black males. The psychological damage on a child when a white parent in an interracial relationship is racist. Social construction of preference in interracial relationships. Black Brazilian women on Black Brazilian men and white women. But as I said, palmitaging comes on both sides, whether Black women want to admit that or not. So a couple of other things I wanted to mention here. When I looked into the relationship between this couple, Alini and her husband, Igor, I come to find out, and I found this out when I learned about her being on Big Brother Brazil, was that they have an open relationship. And she defined herself as bisexual as far as I knew. But then I read another article recently that where he's acknowledging that they have an open relationship. And not only is it an open relationship, but he claims to be bisexual also. So let me take a quick look at something that he said in reference to their marriage. Okay, so here's the post that I was talking about. I just recently discovered this. So it says Igor Hinckley speaks about bisexuality and the open relationship with Alini Weirley. We are partners, right? Let me see. We celebrate. This is his words talking about their relationship. We celebrate diversity as divine. We understand sex through a health perspective and not through the erotic. Our bisexuality only makes possible our relationship. We cure one another with our duality. We work to manifest the sacred masculine and feminine in harmony in each one of us, right? Wrote Igor in his biography of Instagram. And Hinckley reflects on his attempt of deconstruction of machismo or sexism. He says, we are destroying the masculine and constructing a man. Deconstructing the macho and constructing a man, if you will. And this is something that you hear a lot about, just this whole idea of where like the LGBT movement is going. Like we have to deconstruct masculinity. So this is, obviously this is something that he's buying into. It's always a question that I have to ask, like, okay, well, where is this going? As we see that, okay, in terms of gender roles or whatever, it seems, and a lot of people have pointed this out, why is it that it seems like certain elements of society want to take men to be more feminine and make women more masculine? I don't know. It's something I'm going to have to explore a little bit more in the future, but this is something that's just intriguing that I found about their relationship, right? Anyway, so that's what I wanted to share today, just talking about, again, how it seems to be that even when there's an interracial relationship, sometimes you just see this little hint of, I'm still superiority. I'm still superior to you, even though I married you. I mean, okay, I'm asking what you guys think about this piece, because that's what, I didn't check out the article until somebody pointed this out, and I had to read through it myself. I'm like, there's a hint of that in this, what he was saying. And I don't know if he inadvertently like put himself above his wife and he meant to do that, or if it just came natural. And this is what I'm talking about, how have to be able to deprogram yourself for how it is that you see yourself and how you see others. I can't say for sure that he meant it that way. I do wonder what Alini thought about this when she read this compliment. Like, it's always that little hint of, what did he really mean by that? So anyway, wanted to leave that here. I'm curious to know what you guys' thoughts are about this particular article, particular what he said in his Instagram post about his wife. Was he really sticking up for his union with her and their marriage? Or was he inadvertently or even purposely putting himself in a superior position over his Black wife? I don't know. What do you think? Definitely drop a comment about this piece. Consider subscribing to this channel. Share this video. I'd like to keep this conversation going. And, click on that little notification bell just so you know when I'm posting another video. And with that said, hope to see you guys in my next video.